Sean in Arizona is an agnostic theist who wants to talk to us and has something to ask. Go ahead, Sean.
I am talking about the cultural differences.
There we go. Yeah, go ahead. Sean?
You know how rural areas, rural towns, they kind of center on religion, the more religious, and they kind of need while urban areas are seemingly less religious, and there's more alternatives to religion in urban areas and more than the typical just Trinitarian Baptist church there are in rural areas.
And so the question is,
I was raised most of my life in a rural town.
Sean, how bad is our delay here? Can you not hear me? Sean, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
So how did you know to say you can't hear me? Sean, hello. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. How bad is our delay?
I don't think it's delay. I think it's my phone. I think my...
All right, word. So in summary, your question is, as a theist person of some type, why is it that rural places are more religious than urban places, right?
Yeah.
And you live in a rural place or an urban place?
I live in a rural place.
Cool. I was just trying to decide internally if I wanted to start with like some sarcastic answer that'll be mean, like, well, rural people are dumb, than urban people. No. They're a bunch of yokels. The actual reason why, Sean, is that if you are exposed to larger communities and more people, you have to challenge your beliefs more. In fact, urban people do tend to be religious, but they often are less shitty about it. And it is less of a, you must be this specific religion. There's less us versus theming within the actual communities. However, there's plenty of religion in urban areas as well. But if you live in a rural area, not only might you be challenged less often, you might also be more desperate for community because your communities are smaller. And it may be that one of the few places you can find community are at church. So I would say both of these contribute. Eve, would you like to add to that?
That was perfect. I think that sums it up. Yeah, the more people you're exposed to, the more you're doing everyday life things with people that think differently than you. Oftentimes that allows you to feel less scared to ask yourself questions about what it is you believe and have less prejudice against different ideas. So I think that definitely contributes.
So what does it mean when you say you're an agnostic theist?
More of an animist than anything else. God comes into my life and he goes into my life. It's more like belief of fairies and it's more like animism than simply theism. I wasn't really raised religious. I skimmed through religiosity in my late teens. I read the Bible. That was pretty much it. And then like in my early 20s and early to mid 20s, I converted to Christianity. Wholeheartedly. And then I kind of slowly came out of it.
So at present, you have a supernatural animistic belief, correct?
Yeah.
Would you give an example of the way that expresses something in your life that you look at and go, that's magical, that's supernatural, that's only explainable by animism?
The origin of life.
Okay, why is the origin of... Hang on. Tree might
Sean. Be more intelligent than
Sean, hang on.
Is.
For the record, what I asked for was an explanation from your life, some way you interact. You saying the origin of life isn't an example of that. We can get to that in a moment. But what is an example within your life of an experience you had, because you said it comes in and out of your life, where you go, this can't be natural. I need a supernatural explanation for it. Sean? Can't hear you, Sean. There we go.
Yeah. Oh, you got me there.
So there is nothing in your life where you actually go, I need a supernatural here. Okay, so you don't have
there's
personal
things I
experiences.
don't understand and things I do understand.
Okay, but is there something you don't understand and go, therefore, because I don't understand, it must be a godlike thing or an animated spirit or a supernatural explanation? Was that where the origin of life came in?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. And why is it that you feel the origin of life, which I assume you are referring to when you say origin of life, abiogenesis, the method by which there was non-living things, something happened, and then something we would call alive was present, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is it that you feel that requires a supernatural being?
Not necessarily a supernatural being per se, but like life can only be got from other life, and there's nothing more magical than life.
Incorrect. Life cannot only be begot by other life. When you're talking about the abiogenesis event, that seems to have been a non-living thing coming into living. However, every part of you is made up of non-life. Before you were born, you were food. Before that, you were soil. And before that, you were rocks. Right? So let's do it this way. Sean, what are you made of? As a Homo sapien, what are you made of? We'll go with what living thing are you made of? Get it down to the very most basic thing. What are you made of?
Cells.
Correct. Cells. You got it right. Cells. You are made of cells. What are cells made of?
Organelles.
Go even more basic. I wouldn't say cells are made of organelles, but cells do contain organelles.
Yeah.
More basic.
There are molecules and then there are atoms.
What kind of molecules?
I'm not...
Sure. Organic and inorganic molecules make up cells, right?
Yeah.
So every cell that is alive is made up of inorganic and organic molecules. Are those molecules themselves alive?
We don't know.
No, we do know. They are not alive. Inorganic and organic molecules are not alive. So everything that you are describing as alive is made of non-life. You are a compilation of non-life glued together in such an arrangement that when it follows natural processes, humans get to recognize they exist and dress up to look like Quakers for call-in shows. That's what you are. You actually are made up of mostly non-life. The concept that something is alive is almost more of a philosophical concept. But do you know that if you were to get a microscope and look further and further and further, all of your life is made by non-life. And you can see that they are held together by chemical bonds. You can see that the way they interact with each other and way they replicate with each other, all of those things are happening by natural means. So with that knowledge that every molecule of you is not alive, but you experience life, why do you believe that the first self-replicating molecule that was also made up of non-life could not have gotten that way, let's say glued into the appropriate arrangement by a natural mechanism, say chemistry, when it would have been something extremely basic, more basic than even RNA, just something that was arranged of this non-life in a sufficient way to replicate itself, and then every now and then when it would replicate itself, it would make a mistake. Why does that need an animistic, magical explanation as opposed to everything else we seem to be investigating in science and all of the current hypotheses that are naturalistic and fit the bill, but we just can't actually say this one for sure was that moment because it was so far back.
Well,
Why
I'm
magic
not
over
sure if-
chemistry?
You make a pretty good damn point, and
It's what I get paid to do.
yeah. And well, lots of things. God's not perfect. It is not a perfect God. He's not a perfect God.
All right. First of all, your connection's getting worse. So if you can get back to wherever your connection was good, go there. But second of all, we're not talking about whether or not your God was a perfect God. We're talking about the necessity for what apparently is the place you find a need for a God, because you said you actually don't see any evidence of it in your personal life. So you don't even have what most religious people have, which is like this like, oh, this thing happened to me and that's my proof of God, which good for you. Very glad. You basically have this almost deistic stripped down. I'm more comfortable saying God here or some God-like thing than supporting the continued search for the answer. Because Sean, if you're right, why are we wasting so much money trying to answer the question? And I bet you don't want them to stop searching for it. But to say in the meantime, I'm going to go with the belief that has no proof versus actually understanding that all life comes from non-life. All of it. You're only talking about the first living molecule. But the thing that we're recognizing as alive and existing, go get a drink of water. It's been the piss of at least 7 other people. All life comes from non-life. All of it. Every cell in you is made of non-life. So all I want to know is why you still need it.
Hope.
Hope for what? How does whether or not our first living cell, or not cell, the first living thing, how does that being put there by a magical process give you hope?
Oh no, that's the first thing. That's the hope. That's where the hope is coming from. Because that's pretty amazing. That simple molecules can just do that and just create life. But that life will evolve and will start to think.
You think it's amazing.
We'll start
it might be
mind.
routine. You think it's amazing. It may be routine. Look out at all of the universe's natural processes. That water turns to ice at different temperatures is crazy. If you look at crystalline structures, it can feel crazy. But the reason why it seems amazing is because we have a sort of psychological important thing for our survival, dramatic attachment to the fact that we exist. So much so that people often believe in God because they think they were the goal, that God created the universe with them, both individually and in mass, in mind.
Yeah, that's what I'm honestly hoping for.
So you look around and you see the natural world and you go, humans, I'm one of them. They're awesome. This is clearly an incredible thing that happened. And magic was involved, but the magic didn't account for cancers, didn't account for babies dying, mothers dying while giving birth, didn't account for disgusting creatures like all seafood. The fact that you people eat that is disgusting and you all disgust me, and that's proof God doesn't exist. Fucking gross. If you guys knew what those fish are up to, you'd think twice. Anyway, that's more of a personal thing. You look around at the universe and see how little of the universe can actually host us, that we wouldn't just basically burn up and die, that our lungs wouldn't collapse immediately or whatever. I mean, if the universe is hostile to us, and you see all of these species that only seem to pop into existence, kill what they can, replicate, and then die very quickly in very short spans. And you sit there and you go, magic. That's what made this happen.
Not anymore.
I would hope not. Eve, do you have any questions for Sean?
No, I think it just sounds like, Sean, it sounds like, like you said, there's some emotional need to have these sorts of beliefs. And I understand, I used to feel that way. And The problem is then I learned too much and I realized I didn't have good reason to continue believing this stuff, which actually ended up being great because I was able to find really helpful coping mechanisms. That thing you said, you need hope. I was able to find things better than hope. Concrete emotional skills and tools to process some of the things that were scaring me in life. So, that would be all I have to say, is just more on an emotional level. I would urge you to, it's normal to have those thoughts and feelings, but I would urge you to look for real things to help you.
Yeah, problem is there's a lot of churches, and most churches, you kind of have to believe what they teach you. Each different church. I wasn't a Christian until once I became an adult, and I left it because of some personal emotions I had, and I just don't really have an alternative to church. Not many.
There is a beautiful alternative to church. It's called nothing. I don't understand why people, when my dad did this with just God existing. Oh, I considered the alternatives, Christianity A, Christianity B, Christianity C, the alternatives. And then when I was like, right, but what about considering they're all wrong? Well, no, how would, and when I asked him, what would it take for you to realize you were wrong about God? And in the context of me saying existing at all. And his answer was, God would have to tell me himself. So for my dad to learn that God doesn't exist, he would have to be told by God that he doesn't exist. That's religious thinking. It's fucking nuts. So Sean, how about the alternative to church as, I don't know, video games? Fucking.
Well, what is
wings.
it, Sean, what is it about church when you've enjoyed it that you like? What is it that you like that you're not wanting to let go of?
The feeling, the atmosphere, the community somewhat. The community.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say, but you also mentioned that you felt this pressure to you have to believe what everybody else is believing while you're there. And that kind of takes away from all of the good things. And there are, recovering from religion, they offer so much support for this sort of thing where you can find community, you can find all those things that you mentioned. And I just think that would be so much more worth your time and energy, and that you would actually be more fulfilled from something like that, because then you're not in a situation where you're having to go along with things that you don't actually really believe when confronted with the facts.
Are you going to an animist church right now?
Going to a Unitarian church.
Well, the Universalist Unitarians don't give a shit if you believe what they believe. I don't know what you mean. They just like to get together and sing songs and be gay. I like them.
Yeah.
Of the churches, if I had to go to one, they'd be high on the list. All right, Sean. Well, I think we've disabused you of enough notions for today. Take some time, maybe rewatch the call, think about the things we said, and we'll catch you another time.
Harry, I'll hear from
Sean.
you, dude.
Thanks, Sean.
See ya.
Nice enough person. I feel I have little patience for cognitive dissonance
I think I've
today.
Spoken with Sean before, and they're really sweet. We've had a good talk. We talked about something completely unrelated though. So
if I sound mad, it's because I feel like shit, not because anything anyone's doing, for the record. I hope nobody's thinking I didn't dislike Sean. I thought he was nice. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Did you know we saw what you were doing when you watched it?
We saw all of it. All of it. All of it.
All of it. So you're going to want to pay us hush money over at patreon.com/calltheline, where you can buy our silence and watch our patron exclusive podcast.